Strap in for the world's fastest half hour. You're on the Straight Line, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts. And brought to you by Hercules Tires. Now, here are your hosts, Doug Herbert and Marty Hough.
This is the Straight Line on drag racing. Thanks for stopping by our half hour of horsepower. Appreciate you being with us. It's always great to win the Winter Nationals, but it's even better when you go back to back. Matt Hagan did just that, and we'll talk to him about taking the first event of 2018. We're in the beams and set to launch another edition of the Straight Line. Wherever you may be, coast to coast, around the world, this is the Straight Line on drag racing at MRN.com, along with four-time IHRA Top Fuel champion, 10-time NHRA National Event winner Doug Herbert. I am Marty Huff, coming off a great Winter Nationals at Pomona, and the only thing that would be better is actually being at the Winter Nationals at Pomona, and Friday you were.
I was there. The weather was awesome. The racing was fast. Little disappointed. I didn't think on Friday the crowd was that great, which for Pomona is surprising.
It is.
Generally they had pretty good crowd on Friday. Any rate, yeah, some notable things. I guess I would say from my side, Jimmo, Doug Coletta's crew chief, wins the race, wins the Top Fuel race, the first race that he gets. That he doesn't have to be team manager for the whole team. You and I talked about that last week. I mean, that's a big burden on your shoulders.
Right.
Okay, yeah, Jimmo, you're crew chief, but you also have to manage all these other teams. So I think pretty good feather in his hat for putting Doug Coletta in the winner's circle that first time. Clay Milliken, #1 qualifier, quickest run of all time. That was pretty impressive. I'll tell you what, that car was on a run, man.
Reset the world record. If you didn't remember, Clay Milliken had the world record before Pomona and then reset his old mark at a 362. I don't know what David Grubnick is doing, and a whole lot of people don't, because everybody says that Grubby's doing his own thing, whatever that happens to be. But whatever he's doing it right.
Whatever he's doing, he's got it figured out right now. And so that's very impressive. Another thing I thought was pretty impressive is Tony Schumacher going to the final round with Mike Neff. First race that Mike Neff has been over there. They go to the final round. They ran really well. Pretty impressed really with Mike Neff's performance. And we've talked about on the show, I like Mike Neff. Mike Neff, everybody's, he's a funny car guy, this, that. Nah, he's a dragster guy from back with Larry Minor, way back. So he's just a good crew chief. So I was pretty excited to see him having the success with Schumacher going to the final.
And Tony Schumacher has said himself that over the last couple of years, that U.S. Army team has underperformed. For a guy that's won 8 championships and 80
they're running average, and that's not Don Schumacher and Tony don't expect average.
Right.
But the days of Alan Johnson being there and making the run and all these things. I mean,
winning 15 races, in one season, that ship has sailed. Probably
the competition between not only the other Don Schumacher cars, but also the Coletta teams. Then you got Torrance and Brittany Force. I mean, it's a little bit difficult. I say you're probably not going to go out there and win 15 races in one season now, but I'm never say never, but that would be difficult.
Yep, and a great validation for Bo Butner. After winning the championship last year in Pro Stock, to come back to Pomona and win just really validates that championship for him.
I think it really does, yeah. And they ran really well. Bo did a great job driving the car. Yep. Everybody could say at the end of last year, and I might have been one of them. Well, he kind of, he was at the right place at the right time and all that. But you know what? He went out there. He won Pomona at the end of the year. He won Pomona at the beginning of the year. That's pretty good. So I'd say Bo Butner, he's pretty tough right now in Pro Stock racing, no doubt about it.
Yep. And coming up, we will talk to the Funny Car winner at the Winter Nationals in Pomona, and we'll talk to him next. That is Matt Hagan.
Chris Crockett, straight from Victory Lane, to congratulate the Toyota racing family, mechanics, extremely sunburned guy, and you, Mrs. Lippincott. Your support helped Martin Truex Jr. bring the championship home. Kyle Busch won Toyota's 100th race. Screaming fan who lost her voice, that victory is yours too. And Eric Jones, Rookie of the Year, joins Daniel Suarez and Denny Hamlin on the team. NASCAR and Toyota Racing. With a family like this, who knows the places we'll go this season? Learn more at ToyotaRacing.com. Toyota, let's go places. NASCAR is a registered trademark of the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, Inc.
Hi, this is Mike Bagley. Join me and the rest of the MRN crew every Tuesday night for NASCAR Live. We'll put a bow on the weekend's action and get you ready for the upcoming race with the biggest names in the sport.
As you look at that particular race, that's been one of our best races over the years, and I think every driver in the garage is looking forward to racing this particular package.
Hear exclusive interviews, expert analysis, as well as stuff you won't hear anywhere else.
Oh yeah, good job, guys. Good job.
It's NASCAR Live this Tuesday night at 7 Eastern on the Motor Racing Network. Live sports are the one true reality entertainment, where a single dramatic moment can become timeless. In NASCAR, Motor Racing Network's live broadcasts elevate your senses to the sights, sounds, and struggles taking place on the racetrack.
Keselowski to the bottom of the racetrack. He tries to slide up. Newman is there. Sideways is Keselowski.
The power of radio to the imagination of the listener. Tune in to the Motor Racing Network. Visit MRN.com for an affiliate list in your local area.
Welcome back to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's more with Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Appreciate you being with us on The Straight Line this afternoon. And as we said in the open, it's really good to win the Winter Nationals to start your year off. It's really good to start the year off back-to-back. That's exactly what Matt Hagan did. The driver of the Mopar Dodge Challenger for Don Schumacher Racing in the winner of the Winter Nationals. Matt Hagan joins us. Matt, congratulations on another big win.
Hey, thank you, guys. It's always a pleasure to be on the show, talking to you guys. And, I know usually when I'm on, I've done something good, so our team has done something good. So it's always a pleasure, guys.
Well, I'll tell you what, Matt, it was great to see you out there at the races on Friday, and you let it rip with the low ET #1 qualifier, pulled through, won the race. You didn't leave a whole lot on the table for everybody else.
No, Dickie ran the table, man. I mean, it's I just got to give all my credit to those guys, man. I mean, we had a rule change this year with the headers pitched up and a dragster rev limiter on there, and we saw some decent numbers in testing with some other people, but Dickie came out and, man, just laid it down. They worked hard over the winter, and all my guys did. We got a new clutch guy in there, and he was flawless in the transition, and just being able to make those rounds and turn those wind lights on and just have a race car underneath me that is going down the racetrack. We went down the racetrack all but one time in testing, and then every run on qualifying and race day, and what that does for a driver and his confidence and being able to focus on the tree and rise to the occasion. And it's big, man. So it's definitely a team effort. And, we kind of started the year like with my pom-poms out, and I was kind of hoo-hawing and rah-rahing with everybody, making sure we're upbeat and talking to each other and being very vocal. And I think that's the biggest thing we need to do this year is just kind of stay upbeat, because it's a grind, man, and there's a lot of races, and we're going to win some, we're going to lose some, and the biggest thing that we can do is just, be a team. I think you get more out of it just being upbeat and being a team versus just looking at it as a job,
Matt, you talked about testing, and after all those runs in Phoenix and then going to Pomona through qualifying and through eliminations, what do the cars feel like nowadays with the different header rules? Because obviously they're going to drive a little bit differently.
I really didn't see any difference, but I never really had an issue when they were laid back. There's some people that really struggle with it and stuff like that, and I don't know if it's just our setup on our cars or whatnot, but I've just never really had any issues with that stuff. But, you really have to pay attention and be on top of it. And I've been fortunate enough to drive for the last 8 or 9 years. And, I've had a lot of laps under my belt. And, I feel very confident in the race car. So, it's just one of those deals. It takes a lot of laps for some people to really kind of get a feel for it. And, but for me, I'm very blessed that I haven't seen any difference, and it doesn't look like Dickie's seeing any difference in the tune-up, So it's just great that it's all clicking and it's driving, and just everything's kind of coming together, and it's almost unreal that it's been so smooth. When does that ever happen with a fuel car that you go out there and you run out of things to test and qualifying? In testing, we shook down both our cars, one 184, one 185, and come out to Pomona and you're running 82s right off the bat, and it just kind of never land kind of fairy tale stuff.
Leaving Pomona, you're leaving as the champion this year. You left last year, then you went to Phoenix, won the race. You feel that same momentum going on? Everybody's already chasing you. That's a good place to start out the year.
Doug, you know how it is, man. These are fuel cars, and they change when you put them in the box and pull them out. But after having such a good test session in Phoenix, I really don't know why we can't drag it out and have some good qualifying runs and a good race day in Phoenix as well, But like I said, that's why we race them on Sunday, man. Parts break, things happen. If we knew the ones we were going to win, that's the only ones I'd show up to, But it's just one of those deals where that's why the fans watch it on TV, and you never know what's going to happen. When I put my mouthpiece in, I've never had the same ride, So, you go up there, you stage the car, stand on the pedal, and see what happens.
Matt, that first round was pretty brutal from a carnage standpoint. It seemed like everybody down the track was blowing up, oil all over the place. How long were you in the car, and how much problems did you have with the long delay, especially for the funny car guys?
Yeah, obviously Brittany's crash slowed everything down, and thank God she's okay. Obviously, everybody's thoughts and prayers. You never see anything happen to anybody, especially a young little girl like that. And, just into that family, they're drag racing, and it's just, the delays are what they are sometimes, and I sat in the car, you could wring my shirt out for sure. I mean, it's probably a good hour and a half we were in there, and it's not the middle of the summer or nothing like that, but you're still cooking, man. I mean, the track, the ground temperature off the asphalt is well over hundreds, and you're just kind of like, all right, guys, let's roll, but you don't want to get out because you don't want to have to get suited up or hold nobody up. So it's just one of those communication things. Sometimes Graham Light's good at that, and tells you, hey, look, it's going to be a long delay, and get out the cars. And others, it's just kind of like sit tight, So my biggest thing that it did was it put us in such a time crunch to make live TV that we were trying to make 45-minute turns, and we didn't even get the warm-up in the final because the turn was so fast, which is, to me, ridiculous, to have a fuel car that we're pushed so hard. There's 2 lives sitting in those cars, and, if something was to happen, unfortunate, you don't get do-overs. So I love our live TV program and Fox Sports 1, and they do an amazing job, and we want to make those shows. But Graham Light and NHRA needs to understand that it is a safety thing and that we can't be pushed but so hard. And if we miss a little bit of TV, I'm sorry. I love it for our fans. I love it for that. But at the end of the day, I'm going 330 miles an hour, and I need to know that my wheels are torqued on and my heads are down and everything else, So, that put me in a real kind of upset me we got pushed so hard, and I think Tobler and some of these other crew chiefs were as well. And my biggest thing is like, hey, there's no show without fuel cars, so why are we letting them dictate what we're doing? We have to be safe, and these crew chiefs need to have a group text and have a realistic time of when we're going to be up there and do the best job we can and as fast as we can and efficiently as we can, but as safe as we can.
Well, yeah, that's a good point there. And you went up there for the final round without, getting pushed like that. You didn't have lane choice, and you went up there and laid down a run almost, within a thousandth of the low ET of the race. So it didn't affect the performance of you or the performance of the car because you were focused once you got in there. But yeah, but
we didn't even
like a rain delay on.
It's kind of one of those things where you're like, I would have honestly been very, very upset, if something happened or whatever, just because we were pushed. You know what I mean? Like it's ridiculous to have a 45-minute turn with a fuel car. Guys can only go so fast. But, that's another side note, man. We're here to talk about the race and how things went. And, I'm sure everybody's got gripes about everything and nobody can fix everything. But, just something that I think we need to look at is as far as NHRA and what we're doing in safety and stuff like that,
Matt, it's amazing. You didn't get a warm-up and ran 382 with a 3 at 335 miles an hour. Robert was probably in the same place. He lost and ran damn near 337. I mean, that is incredible for 2 teams to get pushed like that and make runs like that.
Yeah, it just shows you the type of caliber of cars that we're racing against and the level with the crew chiefs and them being on point and things going pretty smooth. It just these guys have got these cars dialed in, and honestly, at the end of the day, everybody talks about, Jimmy Prock and all that kind of stuff, but pound for pound, man, I'll take Dickie Venables any day, man. I mean, we've set piles of world records with him, and, I just super proud of him, man. I'm proud of my guys and the team that he's assembled, and, they're just killing it, man. And, and we can say it, we can jump up and down, but, let's just, do our talking on the racetrack and let it speak for itself. And I really, really feel like it's going to this year, man. I'm very, very confident. I'm come in, I'm 16 pounds down from when I finished the year. So I've been focused on that. I've been focused on my lights, and I think my crew and my guys are focused on this team and race car. And when you do that, man, and it all clicks, it's a hard combination to beat sometimes, you know.
Well, Matt, there's no doubt about it. You're the only one that can go for back-to-back wins that coming this next weekend, Arizona. Congratulations on the win here at the Winter Nationals, and good luck coming up in the Arizona race.
Hey, thank you, guys. I appreciate it, man. Like, hopefully we can talk again soon, and you know, hopefully turn some more win lights on this year. But I wanted to say thank you to all the fans that are out there listening, and we can't do this without our fans, man. I mean, they're the ones that make and break us. At the end of the day, they go out here and buy Pennzoil and Mopar and you know, Sandvik, all these huge sponsors that support us, man. But you know, until they pull the trigger and support what we're doing, we can't do it. So thank you guys for them and for tuning in and for what you guys do here on the radio.
Driver of the Mopar Pennzoil Dodge Charger for Don Schumacher Racing, that is Matt Hagan, winner of the Winter Nationals at Pomona. More of the show coming up.
Citywide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there, no matter where the road takes you. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
The new NASCAR season at the new ISM Raceway in Phoenix. Think it'll be loud? Nope. Louder. Think it'll be wild? Nope. Wilder. You think you've seen it all? We're just getting started. Join the NASCAR Nation in Phoenix for the Ticket Guardian 500 race weekend, March 9th, 10th, and 11th. Find tickets from $30 now at ismraceway.com.
Dale Jarrett is going to win the Daytona 500.
The 1993 Cup Series season had more than its fair share of twists and turns.
Checkered flag's waving. I look in my mirror, and here's Earnhardt right on my tail, and he goes down low to pass me. And I said, oh, no, you don't.
Here's stories that you've never heard before in a 10-part series called The 1993 Season, 25 years later.
And Davey was behind me, and we came off the corner, and there's a guy standing in the middle of the racetrack.
You can download it for free on iTunes and at MRN.com starting February 20th.
You're listening to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now, back to Marty Huff and Doug Herbert.
Big thanks to Matt Hagan for joining us here on The Straight Line. We talked about a lot of the problems that happened in first round at Pomona with Matt Hagan. Of course, you know, he was one of the guys in the funny car division who had to sit there strapped in that car. That had to have been brutal just to be able to sit there and have to wait that out. And thus, the subject of our red light, green light feature this week, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts. And the red light, obviously, Doug, being just the problems of everything that happened first round with the blow-ups. I'm not sure exactly, you know, if you can point a finger at something like that, but man, that's no good for TV. That's no good for the
pretty
fans.
Hard, right? It's no good for anybody. Nobody likes to sit there and watch, you know, the sweepers run up and down the track.
Yeah.
That's not fun. So, yeah, I think that's definitely a bummer. Hopefully, I would guess that the teams are going to look at this and figure out. I mean, they're probably at a plateau for the, you know, the parts. There's more fuel volume, more blower boost, more of everything, and then you get to where, you know, the crankshafts, talking to some of the crew chiefs, you know, the crankshafts are lasting 3 to 5 runs.
Yeah.
Some, you know, it's crazy. I mean, that's a $3,000 or $4,000 part that's lasting a couple runs, and then sometimes they don't even last one run. Yeah. Or, you know, the connecting rods, the different parts, the internal engine components are failing, and that's you know, that's a big problem. I think they're going to have to probably get to a point. They talked about this a while back. Is just, you know, changing the rules to make them 400 cubic inch or something like that. That makes everything a little bit stronger. They, you know, lowers the power, and maybe that would be an answer. I don't know. You know, back in the old days, that was going to be maybe too expensive and a long term of a thing because everybody had all these parts. Well, now the parts change so quickly that it doesn't really matter. So, you know, change crankshafts, change your sleeves and pistons, and off you go. Yeah. It's probably not a big deal. But that, the parts blowing up that's a problem. It's a problem for the fans on the TV. It's a problem for the fans that are at the event. It's a lot of work for the NHRA Safety Safari. They do a great job cleaning it up, but that's a lot of work for those guys.
Yeah, no question. And that brings us to the green light, which is the Safety Safari. I can't imagine without them what that first round would have been like, because they were an hour and as Matt said, they were an hour and a half off. And nowadays they do such a good job of quickly getting those lanes back in shape, and not just getting them back in shape, but in racing shape, and making sure that they're really good and racy. If it wasn't for the Safety Safari, that could have been a complete disaster. But we talk about it a lot, but the Safety Safari does such a good job. They're the best in the business, whether it's NASCAR, IndyCar, whatever. They are the best in business in keeping things safe and racy.
I think the NHRA Safety Safari has done a good job. They pulled me out of cars several times and put me out of on fire, and cut my cage off my car and put me in a helicopter. So they do an excellent job, and I think you're right. If I had to say, your top NHRA Safety Safari guys against the guys in NASCAR or IndyCar or anywhere else, I'll tell you what, they're pretty hard to beat. And many of those guys that have been, that are there, the leaders on the NHRA Safety Safari, have been doing this for 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
A lot of familiar
names.
They've
got a lot of experience. Yeah. They understand the cars. They know the drivers. They get it. Like they're race fans in addition to being experts in safety and extrication and all the things that they have to do.
Yeah, they're not locals just showing up for the weekend. They are a part of the traveling circus, and usually they're much earlier than anybody else getting the track prepped and ready to go for that week's event. Also, we'd be very remiss, and Matt talked about it a little bit, was Brittany Force's accident in first round, which kind of held things up. But luckily, Brittany is safe. We're going to take a look at this right here. It looks like she tries to pedal it, and then bang.
Yeah.
I mean, as a fuel driver,
I wouldn't call that an accident. I guess you would call it an accident because obviously it wasn't meant to happen. But I would more call that a crash. I mean, that was
and that is a crash.
That was a crash. People ask me all the time, what's the hardest thing about driving a top fuel dragster? And my answer is the same every single time, and that is knowing when to shut it off. That is the most important thing. These cars are 10,000 horsepower. They go 0 to 100 miles an hour in less than a second, 0 to 300 miles per hour in less than 3 seconds. So you got to think about, what you're doing in the car, and it happens really, really fast. Brittany obviously has plenty of experience driving the car. You get that car's been a really, really good car. It's almost been on autopilot. You hit the throttle, it goes down the track nice and straight. I'm just so glad that she didn't get injured in that crash. That was, she hit the wall pretty hard. So the Safety Safari, there again, did their job. All of the safety equipment on that car, the guys at the shop that build that car, everybody did a great job. Hopefully, hopefully her and the entire team goes back and looks at that, looks at the data, looks at the video, and figures out exactly what caused that crash.
Yeah, and taking a look at the tweet that she said, rough start, but checking out with only bumps and bruises, and thanks to the fans, NHRA. And you can see that she's wearing a bit of a neck brace there, and when you take a side impact like that, that's going to affect everything in your upper back and in your neck. And so,
well, in a dragster, when you hit on the side, you're basically 1 3/8 away from the wall. So there's not a lot of room in there to impact. There's no crush zone like on a NASCAR car or even a funny car. There's you kind of sit in between the wheels. You've got a little bit of crush zone. Dragster, you have no crush zone. So that's the side impact on a dragster is very dangerous.
Yeah, and now she's got to. It's not very long. We get a weekend off and then back to Phoenix. So what's her mindset when she comes back to the racetrack and has to strap back into that thing one more time?
Well, that's a question that you got to ask. I've had situations like that where you go to the hospital and you have to decide right then, are you a race car driver or not? And if you are, then you hop back in the car and you don't even think about it for one split second. All you care about is focusing on what you're doing. And, her last name is Force, so you got to realize there's no one better at doing that than John Force. So hopefully John can coach her a little bit on that and let her get in the car and do her thing. And I think if she does that, she'll be just fine.
Yeah, and we're really thankful that Brittany ended up coming out of that with just an overnight stay in the hospital, and that's really good news, and especially after John Force ended up having to go to the hospital on Friday when he blew the body off of his Camaro. So not a great weekend for the Force clan, but they will be back. When we come back, we will wrap up another great edition of the show.
Chris Crockett here with one of the heads of our Toyota racing family, Martin Truex Jr.
Doing great, Chris. Thanks for asking.
I hadn't asked, but was about to.
Great second question, Chris. Car feels great, and no pressure because of last year's results.
How do you...
Know what you're about to ask?
Yeah, you're...
Blowing your mind? Relax, Chris. Being out in the lead is what I do best.
That is...
amazing. I know.
NASCAR and Toyota Racing. With a family like this, who knows the places we'll go this season? Learn more at toyotaracing.com. Toyota, let's go places. NASCAR is a registered trademark of the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, Inc.
Mayhem, a state of havoc, pandemonium, bedlam, or madness.
The Keselowski tangle. Kurt Busch slams the inside wall.
Then he goes up the racetrack, and here comes Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch, oh, Elliott spin!
Mayhem, what happens at Martinsville. Tickets are on sale now for the STP 500 Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series race on March 25th. Call 877-RACE-TICKS or visit martinsvillespeedway.com to purchase yours. Martinsville Speedway, the half mile of mayhem.
Country 500 Music Festival is back at Daytona International Speedway. How do you like me now? With Toby Keith, Chris Stapleton, Dirks Bentley, Sugarland, Billy Currington, and so much more. Country 500 Memorial Day weekend, May 25th, 26th, and 27th. For tickets and information, visit country500.com. Sponsored in part by Budweiser.
You're staged and ready for another run on the straight line. Brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's Doug and Marty.
Again, big thanks for joining us here on the straight line as we're early on in the 2018 season. Back here next week, Jim Oberhofer will talk to us about his win in the Top Fuel category, starting off the Winter Nationals with a win. And as we said at the top, kind of a validation for him. For those of you that don't know, Jim resigned his duties as general manager of Coletta Motorsports just to focus on being a crew chief of Doug Coletta's Top Fuel car, and they come back and they win the first race of the year. I mean, that's a huge deal for not only for Doug but for Jim.
Well, for Coletta Motorsports, I mean that is great. And I, knowing Jimmo for 25 plus years and knowing Connie Coletta for 25 plus years, I can hear the conversation. So we're going to have some fun talking to Jimmo next week because if I had to guess what was said is Connie, for those of you that don't know Connie's rough and gruff, and Connie would say, Jimmo, what's the matter? Why aren't we winning? And Jimmo would say, well, Connie, I'm taking care of all these teams. I'm doing all these things and trying to tune the car. This is a lot. And maybe Connie said, okay, well, why don't you just run the car and let's see what happens? Well, you know what? Let's see what happens. He goes out there and wins the first race. So really proud of those guys. Great job by Doug Coletta, the entire team, and especially Jim Oberhofer. And we will look forward to talking to him next week here on the straight line.
Yeah, and I think with all the distractions, we mentioned what a mess first round was. One of those was Doug blowing up. And just as he got to the lights, they hand grenaded. They leveled that car. I think in most instances that would have thrown some guys off, but if Jimmo's focused, man, he can get that and just throw another bullet in it and fire.
I mean, I think all the teams now out there, you explode an engine and when it happens like that, you burn the wiring off the car, you burn plumbing off the car. That's a lot of work. But you know what? It's really no big deal. They've got everything set, ready to go. Every part and piece in the trailer has been fit on the car. They know it works. It's labeled. It's in a drawer. It's organized. For those guys, all the teams out there, I mean, they're so good and so quick and so professional. It's not a problem. I mean, you look at that the thing was leveled. There was nothing left on that engine. Probably the wiring was burned off. The hoses were burned off, and they got right back up there and ended up winning the race. They're so good and so much preparation that went into that. No problem.
Yeah, and a lot of help from the Coletta guys, both from the funny car side and from the Top Fuel side. Right. So we'll have more about that next week here on The Straight Line with Jim Oberhofer. For Doug, I am Marty. We will talk to you next week here on The Straight Line.